Highway 16 vanished beneath a blanket of midnight fog as Ray Morgan fought to see the road. 3 months into his new career as a delivery driver, this routine shipment should have been simple. Instead, a split-second swerve would force him to make an impossible choice. When strangers appeared at the crash site, Ray's blood turned to ice. Thick fog blanketed Highway 16 that night, swallowing everything in its path. Ray Morgan squinted through the windshield, his weathered hands gripping the steering wheel tighter as visibility dropped to mere feet. At 63, he wasn't as sharp as he once was, especially on overnight runs like this one. He'd been driving for nearly 6 hours straight, delivering a pharmaceutical shipment his supervisor insisted was time-sensitive. Only 3 months into his new job at Metaparm, he couldn't afford mistakes. This was his first solo long-haul transport. Before we continue, please subscribe, hit the like button, and click the notification bell for more amazing stories to come. Something had felt off from the start. The loading was done behind closed doors. The manifest was handed to him last minute, and the route was specifically planned to avoid major inspection stations. But Ray dismissed his concerns. Companies had their protocols, especially with high-value medical cargo. A sudden movement in the tree line caught his attention. Before he could react, a large deer bounded onto the highway, freezing in the headlights. Ray yanked the wheel hard right, narrowly missing the animal. The truck fishtailed on the wet asphalt, its momentum carrying it toward the shoulder. Ray fought for control, but the massive vehicle tipped. The world spun in slow motion. Metal screeched. Glass shattered. The truck slid off the road and crashed onto its side with a deafening impact. For several moments, Ray hung suspended in his seatbelt, trying to process what had happened. The sudden silence was as shocking as the crash itself. Pain radiated from his shoulder, but nothing felt broken. He unbuckled himself and lowered his body to what was now the floor of the cab. Crawling through the shattered driver's side window, he pulled himself up onto the truck's side. In the eerie glow of the headlights cutting through the fog, he surveyed the damage. The impact had torn open the cargo hold, scattering dozens of packages across the empty highway. According to his manifest, he was transporting samples of a new pain medication to hospitals in 3 states. Ray climbed down and approached the scattered cargo. Several packages had burst open. What caught his eye didn't look anything like pharmaceutical supplies. He knelt down and examined one of the torn parcels. Inside were palm-sized bundles, tightly wrapped in plastic and sealed with heavy-duty tape. They didn't look like medicine. He picked one up, turning it in his hands. The plastic had torn slightly, revealing a white crystalline substance. This wasn't pain medication. A cold feeling settled in his stomach. Something was very wrong. Before he could investigate further, headlights pierced the fog. 2 black SUVs with tinted windows pulled up alongside the crash site. Their engines cut off simultaneously. 8 men emerged, moving with practiced efficiency. They wore dark clothing and emotionless faces. None of them asked if Ray was injured. They surveyed the scattered packages with clinical precision. One man approached Ray. Tall, broad-shouldered, with unreadable eyes, he glanced at the package in Ray's hand, then locked eyes with him. "Step away from the packages," the man said flatly. "We'll handle the cleanup. Leave immediately. Don't look back." There was no concern in his tone, only command. Ray nodded slowly, pretending to place the bundle down among the others. But with a subtle movement, he slipped it into his jacket pocket instead. He backed away with his hands slightly raised. The men didn't follow. They were focused on sweeping the area clean. Ray walked toward the tree line, as if going to call for help. But once out of sight, he veered into the woods, moving quickly and quietly through the dark. After nearly an hour of stumbling through underbrush and fog, Ray came upon an abandoned hunting cabin. The door hung crooked on rusted hinges, but it offered shelter. He slipped inside and collapsed onto the dusty floor. Exhaustion and fear caught up with him. In the dim light, filtering through a dirty window, Ray pulled the bundle from his pocket. With trembling hands, he unwrapped the plastic. Inside was a tightly packed amount of white crystalline powder. His breath caught. Crystal methamphetamine. It hit him like a physical blow. He had been unknowingly transporting drugs. Metaparm, or someone within it, had used him as a mule. The odd hours, the secretive loading, the avoidance of inspection stations. It all made horrifying sense. Ray pulled out his phone, relieved it still had signal. He called his wife, Elaine. She answered, groggy. Ray? He spoke in a whisper. There's been an accident. I'm okay, but the cargo wasn't what they said. It's drugs. Meth. A lot of it. Elaine's voice sharpened. You need to call the police. Now. Those men could be dangerous. I could lose my job, Ray said. And if the company's in on it. Ray, Elaine interrupted, no job is worth your life. And if they're using you to move drugs, you could end up in prison. Her urgency cut through his fear. She was right. Ray ended the call and sat in the darkness, weighing his options. Then, with a deep breath, he made his decision. He dialed 911. The dispatcher took his report calmly. Ray explained the crash, the packages, and the men in black SUVs. He gave his location and was told to stay hidden. Help was on the way. 20 minutes later, 2 officers met him at the edge of the woods. Ray handed over the evidence and told them everything his suspicions about Metaparm, the mysterious route, and the crash. The officers called for backup. From the safety of the police cruiser, Ray watched as a tactical team moved through the trees toward the crash site. The men were still there, loading the last of the packages. Within minutes, they were surrounded and arrested without a shot fired. The investigation moved fast. By morning, police raided Metaparm's offices. Several executives were arrested. Evidence mounted quickly: falsified shipping manifests, drug shipments disguised as pharmaceuticals, offshore bank accounts, and distribution networks across 3 states. But the biggest shock came 2 days later. The ringleader, dubbed the pharmacist by local media, was revealed to be Dr. Gerald Whitman, the town's beloved philanthropist who had recently donated millions to fund a new hospital wing. The community reeled. At a town hall meeting, called to address the public, the police chief honored Ray with a Civilian Bravery Award. But the next announcement stunned him. An anonymous tip fund had provided a reward for information that led to the bust. The amount was substantial enough to allow Ray and Elaine to retire. In the months that followed, Ray often reflected on that foggy night. A single decision to keep that package, to make that call, had changed everything. It hadn't been easy. It had been terrifying. But sometimes, courage isn't about grand gestures. It's about doing what's right, even when you're afraid. What would you have done if you were in Ray's position? Would you have risked everything to do the right thing? Binding bonds through beautiful tales. Thank you for watching.